We're looking live right here, the famous Ambassador Bridge, the Windsor-Detroit border. And at that border crossing, that is where the newest federal COVID-19 protocols are now in effect. This is one of the 11 land border crossings that, as of today, requires non-essential travelers coming into Canada to take a COVID-19 test on site. The other crossings include Niagara Falls, Saint-Armand, Quebec, the Pacific Highway in British Columbia, Emerson West Line in Manitoba. That is today, the 11 sites. 5 other sites began the program last week, so a total of 16 sites now requiring this specific test. Sanjay Maru is with us this morning, right there at the Windsor-Detroit Tunnel. Good to see you on the program, Sanjay. Thank you very much for showing us around and explaining how exactly this change will affect operations at what is a very busy border crossing there.
Well, Heather, speaking of those changes, you can actually get a glimpse of those changes behind me. Take a look. You can get a glimpse of these white and yellow trailers that have been set up here at the 11 land borders, as you mentioned today, the Windsor-Detroit Tunnel being one of them, as well as you mentioned the Ambassador Bridge. And that is where non-essential travelers looking to get back into Canada will receive their first of 2 tests for COVID-19. Now, here is exactly how it works. When a traveler is deemed non-essential, they'll be directed to these trailers. Inside, they'll find staff with the Canadian Red Cross and Public Health Agency of Canada. They'll be standing by mainly for support to ensure the traveler is self-administering that swab correctly. They'll take the swab, swirl it up their nose, and then hand it off to the Red Cross, who will ensure it gets to the lab for testing. From there, the traveler is supposed to go straight to their quarantine location, and then on their 10th day of quarantine, open up a second self-swab kit that they'll self-administer and then mail out via courier.
So that is how it works. But as everyone knows, Sanjay, the protocols at borders have changed. At first, it was just airline passengers at airports. Now we're talking, of course, about land border crossings. And that's caused some confusion and some concerns among travelers. What are they telling you?
Well, despite the Public Health Agency of Canada saying that this on-site testing effort is meant to help non-essential travelers meet those day one requirements when they get to the border, it is still required that these non-essential travelers provide proof of a negative COVID test conducted within 72 hours of arrival at the border. And when this story went live on our website here at CBC Windsor, I received a number of messages from people asking why. What's the point? Why have to bring a recent COVID test from 72 hours prior just to get tested again hours later here on site? So I brought that concern to the general manager of the Ambassador Bridge.
I think, from our level, is it redundant? Sounds like it's redundant. I'm going to give you a negative test and you're going to test me. Obviously, a lot can happen within that 72 hours. And I think that that's what it's trying to prevent, is somebody who takes a test on, Thursday. They're at the border on Sunday. What were you doing for those 3 days?
And the federal government tells me about 90% of cross-border land travel as of right now is considered essential. So this on-site testing effort not expected to affect them. I've been told it's supposed to be business as usual for essential workers. Meanwhile, the CBSA tells me that if a traveler does not want to take that day one test here at these testing trailers, they can actually take that test and self-administer it at their quarantine location. But still, Heather, to be clear, that pre-arrival COVID test is still required. And I've been told by the CBSA that if a non-essential traveler does not present that pre-arrival test, they may be taken straight to a designated quarantine facility. And then there's also hefty fines, hefty penalties for those who do not complete those day 1 and day 10 tests on time. We're talking a fine of $750,000 or imprisonment.
Ignore at your peril. Sanjay, thank you very much. Really appreciate that right there from the tunnel, and of course also applying to the bridge. Sanjay Maru is in Windsor live with us this morning.